Hello everyone, we'll be talking about the new plugin that was released a couple of days ago by the name of Auto Texture to Material to Meshes. As the name suggests, it converts textures to materials automatically depending on the texture names, especially the suffix or how it ends or what it ends with, on import using the interchange framework or for already existing textures using editor utilities, and to set appropriate texture settings to different texture types so you have more control per type. So for example, have you ever had a texture that had washed out colors? Or have you ever had a texture that was being imported incorrectly or recognized as a normal map with normal map compression, especially for ORM maps that have like purplish color? This plugin should fix those settings as well. And also utilities to help assign materials to both static and skeletal meshes according to material slot names and mesh names, at least for now. And also there is support for dynamic texture channel packing. And all of these with easy customizable settings that we will discuss throughout the video in detail. And while we're at it, we will start with an example of this G36 pack, which I got from CG Trader, which did not have Unreal format, which happens with a lot of 3D assets on many marketplaces, including Fab itself. Here the meshes and textures were already imported, so I'm just going to do an editor utility to the textures to make the materials and change the texture settings. Here are the material instances that were created, and now we will assign those materials to these meshes. Using this editor utility, we will hide and unhide the meshes to update, and you can see all the meshes now have their appropriate materials. This is a very nice pack, by the way. It is on the expensive side, but it is very, very nice. And these are different versions. All of them have their materials assigned. Part of it because, and these are the smaller parts because each of these guns are like divided into their smallest pieces or manifold geometries if you want to be more on the technical side. So now let's speak about how to install and enable the plugin. First, you download it from the Epic Launcher, which goes normally when you go into plugins. You should find it, type auto texture, and yeah, it should be the first one to appear. Make sure it's ticked. Here I had it already enabled, and there are some other plugins that it depends on that also needs to be enabled in order to function properly. The first one is interchange editor and interchange framework, both of them. Second one is editor scripting or editor utilities. It's editor scripting utilities. And the last but not least is geometry script. And you may wonder, why do I need geometry script? Well, some of the internal codes, this is a C++ plugin, by the way. Some of the internal codes do rely on geometry script stuff, and for future update that I have in mind for more advanced material search for meshes. That's why I opted for it to be enabled from the get-go. Next step is to go to Tools, and as you can see on the screen, click on the Auto Texture Material Setup. Here, click Yes to install and No to uninstall. This is for interchange. This is required to make interchange enabled, and click Yes again. Now this is the automatic method to make it easier. If you want to do it manually, you go to Project Settings and then Interchange here, Yes. And under assets and textures, you add the auto texture pipeline to both of these sections, to assets and textures. Now, as you saw, the plugin does this manually through this quick tool. If you select no, it's gonna remove it. To install it, just click yes. I hope I made it clear. Next step is how to customize. Here we have editor setting that is sort of unique per project. So if you make any change to the settings, to the plugins settings, it is per project. So just be mindful of that. You go into editor settings, into plugins section, and under there is the auto texture material setup, and you can see all the settings that are here. First setting is pack textures. This allows packing to be enabled. If it's disabled, it won't do any packing. The second is delete texture after packing. As the name suggests, if packing is enabled, it will delete the textures that were originally packed from. not to create clutter. And then the next one is create materials, if you want to make materials at all. Second one is create material instances. If it's disabled, it is going to just make normal materials. Next is parent material instances. These are the materials that can act as possible parents to textures. You can add your own. We will talk about it later. And next is material path option. This is the material path relative to textures if you're trying to make materials from textures, or relative to meshes if you're trying to assign materials to meshes. Although there is more to it than that, we'll get into that in its own section. Just know that for now. And then match suffix. This will try to match the texture suffix to the one that have been specified in the settings. For example, if it's albedo, it will try to change it to base color. And next is texture material name finding level. This is the aggressiveness of how to find materials for meshes. Now, more aggressive means you're more likely to find material, but at the cost of accuracy. And last is the textures detection and settings. This is where you specify the textures to be detected. For example, we have the normal texture. This is the type of texture that we are defining here. And the suffix names are the possible suffix and normal texture might have when you import it, or that already exists. Now you can add more to it or remove some of it. You can add your own even texture identifier. It's up to you. One thing to be mindful of is that the suffix have a mirrored clone inside the suffix name. So if you change this normal, you can see that the suffix name, the matching one, will also change. So if you change to another name, you might want to add the previous name into the suffix names manually. The next is channel matcher. This is where it would connect to a material, and this is the channel of the texture. You would want the red or green or the RGB channel to connect to it. You can have multiple options, like each channel of a texture to connect to something else, or you can have the same channel connect to multiple material outputs. Next one, channel migration. This is texture packing. In this case, we just added a packing option for this normal map. So we'll try to pack it into another texture. Here we have the original channel, either red, green, blue, or alpha. I don't suggest using RGB or RGBA. A destination type is the type that we would like to pack into. The name has to be any suffix name of any entry in the arrays except itself. So basically you cannot pack normal map into normal map again, but you can do it into other type like ambient occlusion in this example, or you can do it for any other texture type that you've made, or your own texture channel packing convention that you've created for your own need. That's custom. You can do that here. And the destination channel is the channel that will end up in it when the texture is packed. In this case, the red normal map channel will end up in the blue ambient occlusion channel. And you can add other entries. You can, for example, you can do that for the green channel to end up in blue as an example. Or you can even pack into different textures, or even unpack the channels. Next, we have the texture settings. These are the same texture settings that you would find in the Unreal texture editor. These are one-to-one. Basically, they are the same. Then this is what's going to apply for the imported texture. In this case, normal map have texture group of world normal map and a normal map compression. There are already 27 other, so 28 in total, different like texture setups already ready to go. You can add to it, you can change it. The power is in your hand. You decide what you want to do with it. Let's make an entry as a basic setup. This is our last element. For the suffix, I'll type my suffix. And you can see a matching name have been added in the suffix names. And other entries, some suffix, texture settings. So basically it's like this. And as an example for packing, a better example, it would be metallic textures. You would want to pack them into ambient occlusion roughness metallic. In this case, we migrate from the red channel of the metallic map into the blue channel of the ambient occlusion roughness metallic. as the name would imply. One thing I forgot to mention in the texture settings would be ignore virtual texture. Basically, it would apply the editor's virtual texture setting, like the resolution, to make a texture virtual or not. You can, if you disable that, it will give you another option to specify whether you want the imported texture to be virtual or not. And as an example, for packing, I'm gonna do a demonstration here. We're gonna add this roughness map. Already prepared some stuff to be imported for this video. Here, the roughness actually converted or got packed into an ORM texture, and this is the matching metallic map for it. Let's see if it will, by the way, this is 4K texture for the roughness and 1K for the metallic, but still there would not be any issue. It should pack it normally. You can see that the ORM texture, when we imported the metallic, it got packed into that as well. And needless to say, with the correct settings as well. So that's good and all, but what about UDIMs? Can it channel pack UDIMs as well? Let's find out. Here we import basically a UDIM that consists of two textures. We're gonna add the metallic part of it, which has like 10 textures, and you can see for the the one that we had two, it overlapped with the first and second map for its 1001 and 1002 if you're using UDIM naming convention. So how do we go about creating our own materials? Just like anything, basically. Make a material, add a texture to it, make sure you convert it to a parameter, and the name of the parameter of that type that you are planning to add should be in the suffix names. Basically, here, for example, we add this one. We can add any of the other suffix names for the normal if you want to use this texture sampler as a normal map, which we do. As for correct sampler types, let's actually add a texture to it. It should automatically assign that for us. The plugin already comes with some placeholder textures. We're gonna add a placeholder normal maps. Let's find which one. Yeah, this is for the plugin according to the path. And now we do the same for the other types. Base color. Don't forget to change the name first, or it's going to change the other normal map as well, or normal sampler. Second, we'll go for base color. We will add, for example, BC, which is included for the base color suffix detection. We would want the placeholder that have sRGB on, so placeholder color. And for ambient occlusion, roughness, metallic, we'll just type ORM because we're sure that that's included, as we already showed before. Red channel goes to ambient occlusion, green to roughness, and blue to metallic. This is a very basic one that we create, a very basic material. We right click and create material instance. I usually like to prefix the material instances with MI instead of just I. But now, what about virtual textures? Because they have to have their own different materials, because their sampler types are different, and Unreal doesn't do a good conversion between them, so you have to have them separate. Luckily, we already have the textures already set up in the project. We copy and paste the material and then just add those textures that are virtual to it, and now we create a material instance for it, but make sure that the material instance ends with virtual, with that like underscore virtual, which serves as an identifier for virtual textures. And now we will drag and drop the materials here. Now, one thing to be aware of is that the lower the index, the higher the priority. So we'll make these two our created materials the higher priority here. We do not want to overwrite these. And the one that I'm showing, the version of this plugin, is just a tiny bit ahead of the one that is live on Fab, as I'm trying to make a small update to it very soon. But for the one that's live on Fab, the virtual textures will not check those materials that do not end with virtual, and vice versa, albeit it will be changed very soon with the spoken about update. For now, we will try to disable the pack textures, so it will not channel pack them, and we'll add the metallic map. And you'll see that it only made a normal material. Why is that? Well, if there is no suitable material instance found for that texture, it will default back to creating normal material and try to connect it from there. That's how it works. If there is no suitable parent material instance, it will default back to creating a normal material, which also can work. And now let's move to our other examples. We will start with another gun, and if you're wondering why it's always guns, well, for two reasons. One, I put my gun or like rifle 3D models in this specific project. Second, I do not own much assets that do not have Unreal format, so basically FBX, GLTF, and other non-Unreal formats. I don't own much of that besides guns, which I bought mostly from other marketplaces like CG Trader that I talked about. So I already had the mesh ready, so I just imported the textures to reduce time, and we can see it made material instead of material instances. That's because we disabled packing, and when you disable packing, there is roughness and metallic, but I did try to make some material instances like this, but for the like the roughness and metallic, it did not pack them, so it did not get recognized by that. And that's a feature. I know it's a bit confusing, but the concept is this. If you had already had a material instance with some types, and then you find another texture that doesn't fit into any material instance, it will make a new material and assign those materials textures to that material from the material instance. I know that's a bit mouthful, but I hope that was clear. Now let's find the textures for this mesh. We're going to try to search for mesh materials. First thing is prevent main content. Basically, that means the slash content not to be searched, and that's to prevent long search times. Second is don't search by mesh name. That means it will only search by material slot names. And by material slot name, it is this. Under the material, there's this name, and this is what the part of the search like algorithm uses to find suitable material matches for the meshes. Let's go to look at that. The third option is override already found materials. If you want to override it, you can do that. And the most important is material path option. Now, by default, it is search up to the root folder. Basically, it means the content folder and the one right under content folder. For in this case, we have the test folder, which is directly under the content folder. It will search any material under it and try to match it to these meshes. Other option is editor setting path option, which is the same as material path option inside the editor setting we showed earlier. Third one, it is the custom one. This is sort of different from the custom in that you do not have to override the editor setting. For example, you want to make a quick search. You don't want to go back to editor setting and change the for example, the settings there, and then do this and change the editor settings back. To prevent that, just added a quick option here that basically oversees it in case you want to make a quick option without making too many change back and forth. There's a custom folder checkup, and it will search for all the materials under that folder. So now we do hide and unhide to update the mesh in our level, and you can see all of these have been assigned. And by mean all of these, there are like 62 items in here. All of it have been correctly assigned. Very nice model, by the way. This I got from a Fab marketplace. It did not have Unreal format, I believe. One thing that I should mention here is that in the editor setting, we chose path before for the material creation. That means, and I'm gonna write it somewhere here on the screen as a text. If your folder content is like this, it will put the material in that folder, basically. If the texture is in that folder, it will put it into a material folder that is right above or the parent of the texture folder. We're gonna change it back to be the same path as the texture. Now, we could have done the packing, but I did that on purpose to show different settings and different possibilities and outcomes, or and why sometimes some material may be created even though we have the material instance option. Now, I think this is one of the very few environment that I found in my library that did. There was a Unreal specific format for this, but just to showcase it that this is not just made for guns or weapons. This is made for all meshes, skeletal or static, doesn't matter. As long as their textures have been named correctly and the material slots for the mesh material have been named, you can easily find, at least for now, like I mentioned before, you can do it. So let's actually have a utility here to spawn all of these sort of not conflicting over top of each other to make the visualization better. So spawn them in a grid like this. And you can see nothing is assigned to them. Already ported the materials correct textures, so now we just search for the materials. The root folder is fine for this one, even though there is the vector, it should not conflict because the names are different, very different. Now I forgot to put them in under a folder to select them easily. Thankfully, they all have the SM_ prefix. We can search by that and select them easily. As you can see, things have been added. It may be a little bit too glossy, reflective. I would assume because it's stylized, you have to input those material values by hand instead of being a texture to reduce time, or to reduce, resources. Next is skeletal meshes. And for this one, I have a boss pack, sci-fi boss pack, which I got from the Unity store and exported it from there. I got this in a humble bundle, by the way. You can see that it does have the metallic gloss thingy that Unity uses, which are metallic in RGB channel and roughness in alpha channel. So let's see, will that pack it here? And the answer, let me spoil you, it does. However, of course, because it's already preset for that in the channel packing option, they're setting. One thing to be mindful of, and I'm gonna speak about it now, is that gloss is different from roughness. So we pack it into ORM channels, basically. Oh, and one thing, yeah, this part of the dragon was not assigned because I think it only uses 2 materials, but that one is like for customization purpose only, so it just uses the same first material. So yeah, about the ORM, it looks like this because the what's supposed to be roughness is actually gloss, which is the inverse of roughness. For now, in the material instance that is supplied with it, you can change it to gloss, which will invert the roughness channel, which means it will change gloss into roughness. You can do that through the material instance, or you can do that through the texture settings, because the roughness channel coincides with the flip green channel of OpenGL, which is used for normal map. You can do that there. However, for a future update, I do plan to add an option to invert the channel that you're trying to pack into a texture for such cases. And these are the other armors that got also their materials created using this automation tool. However, these ones do not have ambient occlusion map because for some reason ambient occlusion maps only existed in the first skin folder and not for the other ones. So ambient occlusion was not put put there, and it was deleted because we have the delete option after packing. As our next example, we will try to do it in 5.6. And by the way, this plugin supports 5.3, 4, 5, and the latest, which is 5.6. It does support them. Here we have something that I would like to put an emphasis on. The base color for this one ends with the suffix A, which in our texture, in our settings, we have it set for opacity. So if you import it like this, it will be read as an opacity. You either change it from the settings, you change A to a base color, or you rename it. And Microsoft have the Power Toys tool that you can download from the Microsoft Store if you're on Windows, that have a powerful renamer tool like I'm showing here. We're changing the A suffix to color suffix easily. First is the preview, the original, and the one after renaming. And yes, this is what we want. And for some reason, it did not update. Why? Wait. Oh, okay. It wasn't updated. It is Windows thing. The name wasn't updated. So now we can import it comfortably. Let's put it in under one folder. It's less messy. I don't mind the meshes to be like this. I know it's not the Unreal way to import stuff. You have to have the mesh under mesh folder, textures under textures, and materials under materials. But for me personally, this is fine for my own use. So now we will assign the materials to the mesh. Okay. I cannot update it for some reason. I'll just reopen it, I guess. Yes, we got it set up correctly. Next, and our final example. This alien model, I think the mesh is a little bit small, so I have to manually size it up. What's special about this? It uses one material, but it is using UDIMs. So if you go to maps like this, you can see the ambient occlusion. They have the UDIM naming convention, and you can see that for the metallic as well. Now, one issue with this, when you're separating the textures, is that when you import it, it will be under textures, and the packing only, well, it will be like the packed texture will be if it does not exist, or if it exists, it will only read it in the texture directory. So we will add all of them into the same folder here. I will only need to import the 1001 or 1001, and Unreal will add all the other UDIMs by itself. But we have to make sure that we put all the textures, the same texture sets, under one folder for packing to work correctly. This is the reason why I chose this model specifically. Now to assign it, I'm gonna, it's only have one material, but I'm gonna showcase the other utility, which to be honest, have limited usefulness. But sometimes if it does, it is very useful in certain cases. And here you choose your materials that you want to assign to the mesh. In this case, we are going to choose as first index, we're going to choose the alien material that was created. Second, we're just going to add some random because it will not do anything as the mesh only have one material slot. But as an example, if it had more, it would like assign it. Yeah, it will assign those according to the index. Let's update this. Okay. Nice model. I think we need a better example for this. I'm gonna choose our beloved golem here. It has 7 to maybe 8 to 9 materials here. Yeah, it has 9. So because it starts with index 0, you will try to assign some of it. So for first 2, we're gonna assign first 3, the alien again, and this random material that we're finding here. And we're adding some invalids. And what the invalids does, invalids will actually skip the index. That's what it's going to do. It's going to skip the index. So at index 6, it should change the index 6 of the mesh should correspond to our set material. It says preparing shader, although it has been applied. I think I'm gonna have to open it again. I do not know how to update inside skeletal mesh editor. Just let me reopen. Yep. So our first 3 indexes were these, which were changed. And yeah, the element 6 is the one that we want to change. It skipped over the other previous elements. And that's how it works. It has limited like usability, but if you know a couple of meshes, all of their indexes are using this material, it can save you a lot of time assigning those materials to those meshes, since the editor property matrix does not do that for you. I'm constantly trying to update my plugins, improve stuff, fix others. So if you find any issue with the plugins, please do let me know. And we do have a written doc for this one, although it's not that good as much as I would like it to be, but you can use that as a helper along with this video. We also have a Discord, but that's a bit lonely. I hope more people join, or even if you have a question, there are multiple ways to contact us through email, YouTube comments, Discord. I would prefer Discord because it's probably the fastest. You get the response and answers. And there's also the Unreal Engine forum post that you can access through the Fab page and the top right under the comments. So if you have any questions, issues, any ideas to improve upon, I'm open for that. Hope you found this useful. Peace.